We end tonight's newscast with another story from our December 24th show. It's a look at homelessness in Somerville from reporter Monica Akhtar.
Just 2 years ago, after suffering repeated domestic abuse, Helen and her children were suddenly homeless.
People have this conception of what a homeless person really looks like. You know, they're supposed to be that person that's on the street, you know, drinking and, you know, older and dirty and what have you. But when you tell them like we were, you know, we don't look the part, as you would say, but yeah. But people in Somerville really don't, it's almost like they have a blind eye to it.
After moving in and out of shelters for 2 years, they now finally have a place to call home.
I mean, they had to see a side of stuff that I never wanted them to see, but, you know, how people had drug problems or, you know, mental issues and stuff like that, so.
Domestic abuse is one of the leading causes of homelessness. Another is poverty. 15% of Somerville residents are considered poor.
The people need to open their eyes to what is actually happening out there. People see that, you know, the people that they think that are homeless they're not bad people. You know what I mean? The girl next door, the guy next door, you know, it's that simple. But a lot of people just don't understand what the word homelessness means.
Some Somerville residents are caught between the recession, the lack of subsidized housing, and rising rents. Since 2000, the median contract rent in Somerville has increased by 43%, according to the city.
Especially for people at the bottom of the economic ladder, you know, wages have been stagnant for years now, while costs have gone way up. Rent being the worst cost. I mean, if you're very poor, you almost have to have some kind of housing subsidy to be able to live in Somerville. I mean, it's very expensive because it's so desirable. You know, it's convenient to get into Boston. Somerville's hip. You know, everybody wants to live in Somerville. But people who grew up here can't afford to live here anymore. The terrible thing that's happened during this recession is that the number of people in deep poverty has increased from 16 million people to 25 million people. So deep poverty, a family of 4 in Somerville living on $11,000 a year. I mean, it's almost impossible to imagine how they can do it. They're living with so little.
Almost half of all households spend more than 1/3 of their income on rent or mortgages. Some spend more than half. The exact number of homeless individuals is difficult to count, but there are over 4,000 homeless families in the state and hundreds of homeless individuals in Somerville alone.
We have a shelter for individuals. It has 16 beds. It's filled every night. We have a family shelter with 20 beds for 5 families. It's filled every night. We have about 175 families and individuals in permanent housing that we control, but those are always filled.
As of December, some public school children were sleeping in shelters, motels, or on friends' couches.
We encourage people, you know, to come to the food pantry if they've got to make, you know, choices between paying your rent and buying food.
Project Soup, run by Somerville Homeless Coalition, is open 6 days a week and sees 15 to 25 visitors each day. The people who visit the food pantry are not always homeless. Some have jobs and families, but use their entire income to pay their rent.
We'll see you later. Have a nice holiday. All right, bye-bye.
Mark Gray was homeless until just 3 weeks ago. He now lives in Somerville Homeless Coalition's permanent housing and works to pay 30% of his rent. He says he could not have gotten there without help.
Once I reached a point where, you know, I've had enough, that I was able to, you know, there's got to be a better way than this. And through the resources available through Casper, getting myself some recovery, and building my foundation, that I've been able to deal with other issues in my life, getting housing and getting myself back on my feet and kind of restoring some values in myself.
Despite the booming developments taking place here in Somerville, there are still people being left behind who must resort to staying in shelters like this one here on Cross Street. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Monica Akhtar.
Did you know that there are over 60 homeless kids in the Somerville public schools? It's a big problem across the state. To see an interview I did on this in our previous newscast, go to our website or search Somerville Neighborhood News on Google.